So it's the international break, of course, and England and all the other nations, of course, have got to sort of battle it out to get to the World Cup next year. So it gives us an opportunity to kind of take a second and have a look at the EFL and some of the players that have made it through, especially with England. From that 26-man Euro squad, 22 players played in the EFL at some point. You've got the likes of Kieran Trippier, Jack Grealish, Calvin Phillips, and of course, Harry Maguire as well, all getting over 100 appearances in the EFL. So we thought we wanted to kind of have a little look at that. And in particular, we're going to kick off with Harry Maguire. And I'm delighted to say that Danny Wilson, who managed Harry Maguire, sculpted him, in fact, joins me right now. Danny, it's lovely to chat to you and to discuss Harry Maguire. And we're going to also talk about youth development in general, because I think it's just a fascinating topic and one that's very, very important when it comes to the EFL, because you do see that more and more, those players kind of dropping down the leagues, or in Harry Maguire's case, kind of coming through at a club and then making their way to Manchester United and England. First question I've got to ask you before we get into anything: Harry Maguire's penalty against Italy. Did you see that coming? Because I don't think I saw that coming. He just powered it into the top corner, didn't he?
He's done it for Sheffield United. We had a penalty shootout
really?
while I was playing there, yeah, and he took one there and stuck it in the same top bin, top corner. The absolute keeper's just flashed past him. So it's not it wasn't a fluke, I promise you.
No, well, yeah, no, I mean, certainly wasn't a fluke. I think the whole world was just, because you see it, we all have those moments, don't we, where we go, right, penalty shootout. Okay, let's see Harry Kane. Great. Right, next up, so Harry Maguire, the centre-back. You get a little bit nervous, but then he does what he does. And, unfortunately, the other guys weren't able to strike it as well. But it shows a sort of a steeliness about him. And that's sort of no pun intended, of course, with him being a Yorkshireman, and that England squad as well, likes of Carl Walker, John Stones, being from that neck of the woods. I was able to spend a few years there as well. The special people from Yorkshire and Sheffield and Leeds and all those places. But specifically with Harry Maguire, right at the start of his journey, he obviously needs that opportunity. And you were one of those people who gave him that opportunity. He actually had his debut in the season before as an 18-year-old for Sheffield United on their way down into League One. But what was your first impression of Harry Maguire once you kind of got your hands on him? Because I imagine you would have been told that this is a player that could be something special.
Yeah, I think it's when unfortunately when Sheffield United were relegated the 2011 season, I think it was. As you rightly said, Harry was just making his way into the team then, and from a substitute, and then a couple of games afterwards. But I think with Harry, when we got him in pre-season, we'd heard a lot about him, and obviously we knew a lot about him from the Youth Cup games that they had with Manchester United that season prior. So he was bandied about a little bit from that point of view. So we had a fair idea of what we had in front of us, but we knew he was going to be raw. And I think that getting him in pre-season, looking at him in pre-season, because he was a very, very big unit of a boy, and when you see him now, before he'd not really understood the dietary requirements of being professional and whatever, which is understandable. So all that thing had to be taken in consideration. But first and foremost, it was what ability he had, and he was training with the first team like he just belonged there, from day one. He was going to make mistakes. Listen, we always knew that that was going to be the case, and we're very forgiving, but we believed in what we could see in front of us. But what we did have as a person was a very humble young lad, very respectful to myself and to the staff. Whoever spoke to him, he was always very responsive, always tried to do what you asked him on the pitch. And you could see it literally on the pitch at times. When you've asked him to do a particular thing, he would respond to it. And as he went on, he just got stronger and stronger and got this confidence, got more belief, and started doing the things that came naturally to him.
Yeah, and we've got a clip that we'd like to show you now, actually, Danny, because Harry, does talk about you and him and his relationship, and in particular, a word that I'd like to kind of dive into a little bit more, that idea of opportunity, kind of getting it, but you've got to take it, of course, but you've got to be given it as well. And he spoke very highly of you. Let's have a look at this clip that he did in his interview with Gary Neville quite recently, but before the Euros.
You're obviously someone who's resilient and you're tough, and you can obviously take criticism. I mean, your first experience at Sheffield United was to go in, I think as an 18-year-old at the end of a season where you got relegated. I mean, what must that have been like?
When I went into the team in the Championship, I went in for the last 4 or 5 games, and we was pretty much down when we went in, but I made mistakes. I can remember games when I was 18, 19, a centre-back playing in League One, making mistakes, and to be fair, this is where I give great credit to the manager, Danny Wilson. A lot of managers probably would have said, have a little rest this week, we'll bring some experience in, but every game you just play me, and I say it's a big part of where I am now.
What mistakes were you making at that sort of age, and what type of mistakes would you have been making?
The main mistakes I feel at that sort of age is concentration. I can remember playing a couple of short back passes to the keeper where you're just taking it for granted that you're just going to play it back and the concentration isn't there, or the positioning. But I had a great manager who had great faith in me. There wasn't many players playing at my age in League One at centre half and playing week in, week out, and that's a big credit to Danny.
So how does that feel to hear, one of your ex-players who's now, essentially vice captain of England, saying that about yourself?
Oh, listen, it's I feel very, very proud, I played a little part in his career, but you have to look around at any player that's got himself to the top level. You have to have a certain type of determination and character within yourself, to push yourself and to get to the levels that you want to get. And Harry was doing that. Harry wasn't difficult to deal with. He talks about his mistakes there. They were few and far between, really. He'd get under a ball now and again. He'd miss time a header. He'd, as I said, he'd put a short back pass now and again to his goalkeeper. Or he wouldn't be. He'd lost his defender in the box. Striker in the box at some particular time. There were just minor things that you could always improve upon, and that's what he did. And not only getting better for us, when he got transferred, it seemed to every time he moved on to another club, he's got to another level, a higher level, and he's coped with it very, very well. It's a great story, really. It's a fairy tale story from it's not rags to riches sort of thing, but that type of scenario, and he's only got himself to pat on the back, really. Yeah, he's had a bit of help, but you have to be determined in yourself to want to push yourself to the limits that top players do. And Harry's got that determination. He's got the humility to get there as well. But he's also got a determination, and he's got so many different attributes that go with being able to be captain and be responsible for the England and Manchester United teams.
Yeah, I think every player is different as well. I think now there's this general idea that if you're not playing for Chelsea's academy or Man United's academy or one of those teams and making your way through that way, then you're not going to get yourself there. But, you look at Kieran Trippier, Jack Grealish, Calvin Phillips and Harry Maguire as well. That's not always the case. What I thought was quite interesting was the fact that there's been a lot of talk recently about someone like Phil Foden, and people saying he's got to go out and play. Guardiola was kind of suggesting, actually, no, I need to keep you here with me. Your tactic with Harry Maguire, he says it himself, was that you allowed him to kind of make those mistakes. How difficult is it to get that balance right with a young player where you want to kind of protect them, give them opportunity, but also, not allow them to drown? What was your kind of thought process when you would look to try and blood young players like Maguire?
Well, in Harry in particular, if you got to remember as well that I took over the Sheffield United team when they'd been relegated, and I came from Sheffield Wednesday, which was not a very popular choice at the time. So the pressure was on myself as well and my staff, to get results straight away. We didn't really have a time scale to say, well, give us 6 months and we'll try and get some results and everything will be hunky-dory. We had to hit the ground running from game one, and we knew that. So if we were going out to say to the fans that you have to wait and see and wait till Harry gets, finds his feet and this, that and the other, I don't think we'd have been thanked. So what we did, we quietly got around Harry on the training ground, and not just Harry, but the rest of the team as well, because it was surrounded by some good players at that time, and some experienced players as well, which was a great help. But I think with Harry, from that point of view, I think he understood as well that the bit of pressure that we were on, and I think he helped us in terms of not complaining about anything, and if he'd made a mistake, he just got on with it, just very, very positive. When the press came to him, the media came to him, he was always very, very honest and positive in his approach and how the club was doing and how we're playing, and towards the staff and myself as well. And that, he helped me a great deal as well, that it wasn't just one-way traffic in that respect, because I had to win the fans over personally, and and we had to win games, and we had to get them straight away. We didn't have really any choice in the matter, and thankfully he came up trumps for us on the first game as well, where he thumped a header in against Oldham on the first game of the season, which set us up for a fantastic run that we went on. But so I have to thank Harry a lot, because he got us off to a good start, and it was only through his determination, really, in that respect, and I think his understanding again of the situation that the club was in at that time.
Yeah, and that ability to step up regardless of your age. It's something on the channel on League of 72. We spoke with Mark Warburton recently, and he was talking about the youth team players that he's brought through at QPR and through his previous careers and places that he's been, and he was very keen to emphasize that it's all good wanting to give people opportunities, but they have to be good enough, and they have to be ready. It was that I guess that was the case with Harry, is the fact that, like you say, as much as you kind of, with the pressure that was on you as someone, a legend of Sheffield Wednesday coming over to Sheffield United, it was as much as, okay, because you wouldn't do that unless he was good enough, because you'd go for someone, I would imagine, a bit more experienced, right?
Well, yes, it would have been easy to do that, but then again, would have neglected the potential or the future England captain, believe it or not, as it stands now. So would he have been in that position now had we not stuck with him? It's a real conundrum, really. We'll never know that answer.
So how do you spot these players, Danny? Because I think that's what I love about the EFL. Probably the most is the fact that you go, this guy's a player, this guy's going here, and that's something that we all kind of get to enjoy and be a part of with different players that we have at our teams. But I'm really fascinated in the role of the manager in this, because they have to be able to kind of see it and water it almost. So what are you looking for in young players, sort of broadly, in terms of giving them that opportunity? Because I imagine, as much as it's a skill-based thing, is it a mental thing as well?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, you look at Sheffield United, and we're talking about Harry at the moment in time, and the expectation level is just like any big club, and they want to be in the top divisions, the top flight, winning games at that level, and I think with a club like that, the demands are very, 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 very high, and so players themselves, and in particular like Harry, have to be able to deal with that side of it as well, and the expectation level. And we've seen so many young lads, or so many players, never mind just young lads, experienced lads, who can't handle that type of pressure. We've seen players go to big clubs like Manchester United and not be able to handle, the 50, 60, 75,000 people that they expect every week. And then they go to other clubs, and they go to other clubs and be flying, but they possibly be a bigger fish in a smaller pool type of thing. So yeah, I mean, they've got to, the mental side of it is very, very important. In fact, it's one of the major parts of it. As most people would say, that your brain controls everything. Everything about what you do, how you perform and how you approach the games. It's all down to that thing that's in between your ears. And Harry has that determination and abundance, that calmness about himself. He can control the situation around him. He knows how to control his environment, which is brilliant.
Yeah. And I guess final one was, with Harry Maguire and the games that he played, and some of these other players that we're talking about with this England squad, and how they are able to develop the way that they have done. What are the three key characteristics that you think that any young player, that any fan from a team in the EFL EFL or generally, what 3 characteristics should you be kind of looking out for young players coming through to think that they've not only going to have it in that moment? Because we've seen a lot of players sort of come and get 10 games, maybe 15 games, or maybe even that first season, and then kind of fall away a little bit. As someone who's, managed so many games, played so many games, I find that interesting. Is there a thread in all of these players? Is there one characteristic or 3 characteristics that we as fans and should be looking out for with young players making their way through the EFL? Because sooner or later we know, we've seen it, there's going to be this next line of players that end up playing for England that I would imagine a lot of fans might turn their nose up at, but just like with Harry Maguire, they've gone and gently done it, making their way through the league. So what would be the sort of the thing that's most important?
Well, I think there's lots of different characteristics that make players, in different positions, different styles of players. You've got your Harry and then you've got Harvey Elliott that's coming through as a young lad. He'll have totally different characteristics, and certain things will help that individual to get to where they want to get there. Harry's position, and his stature and his physical stature, was a big help for him in the first place. And he had a bit of a start before, that young lads start to sprout and grow when they're 15, 16. Harry was that size when he was that age, so as he is now. So he had a head start in that respect. I think the physicality of the Premier League, the top level football, the international level football that we have nowadays is absolutely phenomenal. It's so how can I say? You have to be so fit and so dedicated and ready to go and look after yourself, from game to game and prepare for the next game. Whereas before, when in bit only we'd have a good game, we'd get a win and have a couple of pints and then prepare for the game the day before the next match. Now they're preparing within hours of finishing the last match, and that dedication is exactly what a young boys needs. They need to be dedicated nowadays, far more than they did, in the yesteryear. They have to understand again what goes on around them now. The social media, the lifestyles, everything that is easily obtained now by social media. Is either going there to promote them or it's going to hurt them. So they've got to be very aware of that, very savvy to what they can and cannot do. Because other things can stop your career, than things you do yourself sometimes. So there's lots of things that they've got to endure nowadays, and I find it, very sad sometimes that that things you get in the paper when they're young lads, that they've gone on holiday and had a couple of drinks or somebody seen them having a cigarette.
Yeah. Well, Harry's had to deal with that himself, hasn't he?
Yes, he has. Yeah, he has, and I think let's hope he's learned from it. I'm sure he will have, because he's a very quick learner. And as I say, sometimes you have to remember these boys aren't Trappist monks. They're the young lads who will make a mistake. And that's a good part of them. That's that little bit of edge that they have at times, which could possibly make them a player. So I can't put my finger on 2 or 3 things, because there's so many things that attributes that you need to put together, James, to make the top level at the moment. But the biggest thing, obviously, if you've got the ability, if you've got the potential, it's about being consistent and taking it on the pitch with you every time you go on. Once every 6 or 7 games is possibly not good enough. You've got to go and do it and be prepared to do it and be in a fit state to be able to do it on a regular basis.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that's what I love about it the most, is that this isn't a binary thing. You as a manager, you're a better manager as time goes by and you get experience and you develop, you live and learn, and the same goes for players. And I think we're kind of living in a world where you can be finished by the time you're 23. I think people were having a go at Harry Maguire like probably about 12 months ago, saying he's not good enough for this or that. He keeps calm, carries on. And he's smashing penalties in at the final of the Euros. So it's a life lesson for us all. Danny, it's been an absolute joy to chat to you. Thanks for joining us on La League of 72. We'll have to get you back on when all the sort of Yorkshire teams are going on. We've got Swindon doing well at the moment. You manage them. MK Dons are doing okay. Sheffield Wednesday, of course, as well. So we'll have to get you back on. But for now, Danny, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure, James. Thank you.
Thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget, every single Thursday, 4 p.m, I will be live on the League of 72 channel talking about all things EFL, looking at all 72 clubs. So if you want to join us for the exclusive access and, of course, watching some of your favourite goals from your team, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell.